Welcome to Warblog. Today I'm looking at this Peski advance, which I started, well, it looks like at least 5 days ago. I finally got there. Let's think. Yep, so it's the Donetsk area, and they're trying to get to Peski, which is there, but also this place and this place. I'm so busy, it's difficult to sort of plump things together, but this one looks like quite a big one, really. So let's just jump into it and sort of have a blast. So essentially, not a lot seems to have been happening, and I can never quite figure out what's happening. It's complex, but get the magic drawing tool out. Obviously, there's the front line sort of here, and we've got to sort of go here, here, and here, and this is Donetsk, so this is sort of, the core place. Now, what this represents, and what this does sort of fairly well, is it demonstrates the complexity of what's happening and the sheer scale of units. Now, as ever, it's probably not realistic into sort of what's what and what's where, but it does make you sort of think, well, it is a complicated situation. I mean, where do you even start thinking? And I'm not about to sort of sit there and really get to that magical sort of really thinking about it moment, in the sense that you'd have to sort of sit there and create battle groups, as I tend to do, and sort of analyze each and every hex as to what you can do. Obviously, this is a longer run. We've got air power, etc., etc. So, to even start thinking about this is beyond the scope of what I'm going to do in this short video, because I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this video. But I don't want to just jump into it. So what I'm going to sort of maybe do is tentatively look at a couple of areas. So I mean, for example, we could quite clearly take this hex and move into this hex, but then what does that mean? What have we got sort of against us? And we've got, infantry with anti-tank, infantry. There's more anti-tank there, more anti-tank there. So we could be under a lot of anti-tank fire by moving into there. So we've got to sort of think, well, what is, and how does this relate to what we're actually seeing, in the news, so to speak? And I think one of the things it does represent is what I've been talking about in the past, and that is, the sheer firepower that both sides have. It's inevitable that there's going to be a lot of losses on both sides. But so for example, maybe what we could first look at is where is all the Ukrainian indirect fire. So we've got artillery, rockets. Don't see too much else. There should be stuff. So we've got rockets, artillery. I mean, that's just a big thing in there of indirect fire. What have we got in there? Rockets. Got rockets in there. So what to do in the first instance is sort of, well, I don't know. Now, what I have sort of also picked up on, and I might sort of do well looking at this again with regards to sort of adding woodland features, because there's no woodland, it all looks agricultural, but there might be woodland. But the woodland would represent cover, in the sense that, whilst we're in the light urban, we've got good cover, and this is the whole thing about the whole of the Ukraine situation, is that this distance can be made quite rapidly, I think, through open terrain. But once it gets to the cities, it's difficult. And they are holding their own in open terrain. There's pictures of fairly significant trenches and earthworks. But even so, I just think that that's not slowing down the Russian advance in the same way that the buildings are. So now the thing to do, and maybe to anticipate, is as soon as we've made a move, we're going to be threatened by what we're seeing a lot of, I think, is the Ukrainian sort of anti-tank squads and their small sort of interdictive teams, because I think that's what's sort of frustrating the Russian advance a little. And we can sort of see that we've got some irregulars down here. I haven't put any engineering works in yet, but maybe that you can sort of do that yourselves. I was thinking that maybe all this should be mined. I did see the remote mining system. I did think of applying it because it would be quite good, because you could mine this road right here or here, but I haven't got around to it really. So the thing is, in the first instance, what is there to do? So we could maybe, remove these units. We've got engineering, we've got units that we could probably do it with. But why would we want to be there? What we really want to do is, because we don't want to be in the open too much, what we really want to do is, we could maybe go up to Kamianka if we can knock these units out. So, but I don't think we can get there. We wouldn't be able to get there over cross country. So there's this hex here, which has got 2 lots of infantry in it, and this here. But we could probably get into Luhansky, which is only a little village. Which would put us quite quickly going up there. But then again, we'd be subject to Ukrainian counterattacks. So, and I think what will inevitably happen is the Russians will use a lot of their artillery and firepower to whittle down, the Ukrainians, and the Ukrainians will use their artillery and indirect firepower to again inflict significant casualties on these sort of Donetsk people and the Russians. But that's a fairly solid line, really. See, the Donetsk artillery is not very powerful. It's not very big, long range. When it's stuck all the way back here, it's stuck there. None of this stuff's going to be able to hit anything. This might be able to. 1, 2, 3, 4. We could hit that. We've got air power as well. So what do we want to sort of try and wipe out straight away? Well, ideally, for example, we've got this big stack of tanks, mechanized. It might be useful to try and target a stack like that, or like that, all of that artillery. But we're going to get a lot of air defense. See, this is the way it is. It's so complex and vast that it's hard to actually make an easy and quick decision about how to move. And so you've got to do something, and there's going to be mistakes brought about by the chaos. So what to take? Well, I think this one has to be done first. So how could we do that? I think we can start off by using some bombers. Okay, we'll leave it at that because I don't want to spend all my bombers on that. So what are they on now? 0.6 and 3.7. Now we can probably get them with some artillery. So we use this artillery on them. Let's use 2 lots of these artillery units. No effect. 1.4. So what's he on now? 0.6 and half. So he's lost 50% of that other unit. So what else can we do? See, the artillery can't move and fire. We don't have any Russian rockets, it would appear. So, in taking that, how do we want to do it? They can only move 1 hex. It's motorized. Okay, so that's that. Let's see what we can do. I wonder if they're actually doing things like this in the real war, you know, like outflanking. So we've got a DR and we routed one of them. So essentially pushed him back to there. So he's at 2.6, which means that we now have that. Which is interesting because we've now made a strategic effort to move forward. We used air power, artillery, and then a fairly sort of sizable maneuver. I can't remember the odds now. I suppose if you're looking at the video, you go back. So that was that. So what else can we sort of do? Well, bearing in mind we sort of moved all of this sector up, so we can't really do much more there. But let's maybe try and finish this other part up. Now we want to sort of protect all of the artillery assets if we can. Well, obviously we want to protect them totally. So let's try and move things with at least some other body with them. Probably won't be able to get there to fight that, but we might be able to use our mechanized to push these irregulars back. Should be a 7-1, that's 6-1 DE. So we'll push them back to there. So we've now got a nice front line there. Now, how far can we move this artillery forward? Right, so that's sort of that part all sorted out. I'm not going to do another attack on that. It could do something, but it would be like a 3-1, which, is it worth it? Maybe if we can get these engineers in there. No, we can't. But we could also do a helicopter attack on them first, just to sort of make it seem a bit realistic. And we did some damage, so I think that justifies following that up. 3-1 and a DR, so the helicopter damage didn't really change the odds. But we've now pushed them back, so we're now bit by bit pushing the Ukrainians back. But the thing is, it's symbolic of the progress. You've got to take each hex. So in reality, a hex could be like a mile across. And you've got to do it bit by bit, step by step. And that would, to some extent, reflect what's happening. They're sort of saying, oh, well, they haven't really advanced that far. And, well, they've met the front lines. They've met this sort of bulk of force. Pushing them back, is one thing, but they will get to do a counter-attack. And so you can't push them back and leave yourself exposed. Now, we're not really that exposed, but the thing is, this is, in theory, a weak unit, because it's only 2, so they could be attacked by the irregulars, but they're 40% down, but we've got artillery that could possibly attack, so it's not truly reflective of everything that's happening. But in this next step, what we're going to do here, well, this would be a nice one to move, but I don't think we've got any movement really. We want to make sure this artillery is protected. We could try and take that out. Okay, that's enough units. Let's see what we can do with the artillery, because this is some big artillery. 0.5. Okay, well, let's send some drones in. Drone is at half strength, but we got a hit, so they're at 1.5, and let's bomb them as well. 1.6. So let's now try and take this hex. But 4-1, good odds, and then the exchange. So that's the nature of war. They failed to take this hex. Now it's probably got a name, and there would be Twitter fodder for the failure of the Russian advance, because even with good odds, the Ukrainians held out. But we've got our advanced line, which is starting to sort of form. So our advanced line is looking like this now, from whatever it was. And in theory, the rest of this can somehow probably nudge up to create something like this. We probably won't be able to get that far across country. But I'm not going to go anymore because it's been 20 minutes and it's quite late, but and it's obviously a big game. What we can do is just end the turn, forget about the southern area, and just see what the position would be. For the Ukrainians, they don't have any drones or any air power, which is notable. Now that's not a massive stack, so let's see what we can do. With some rockets. Five 5.2, 3.2, 2.5, 2.9. Bearing in mind this is basically everything that they can, so they've destroyed some Russian artillery. Russian artillery and engineers, there's no point going any further for the other engineers. So they've destroyed, well, these are Donetsk People's Republic units in there. I think we need to give the Ukrainians some drones, because I think they should have something. But that would mean I have to give the Russian side some air defense. And so, but I'm going to leave it at that. But I think it's interesting. I mean, it's a real sort of, real bloodfest. I mean, it's going to be complex and difficult. And I'm not sure how it's going to turn out, really, because it looks as though the Ukrainians are probably going to get beaten easily. And maybe it should be harder than that. But who knows? Anyway, I'll leave it at that, and I'll speak to you later. Cheerio.